everybody, and welcome to Oblivion Remastered, the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. Today, we have quite the journey ahead of us. We are going to be doing every single Daedric Prince quest in Oblivion. And we are starting here at the Shrine of Nocturnal. I am also going to be putting the original graphics up on screen for each of the Daedric Prince shrines, so you can see how they've been changed. For instance, here with Nocturnal, the original statue always looked like it had a giant 5-head to me. Like her head was really oval-like and bald. But in the remaster, they have given her some very visible hair. Otherwise, the statue seems quite similar to its old version. You'll see that some of the statues are basically identical to the original version of Oblivion, but some have been radically redesigned. So that will be interesting to see. So, Nocturnal has told us that her eye has been stolen by 2 Argonian thieves. And she has told us to recover her eye. So to do that, we are going to go find the thieves and see if we can't get the information out of them as to where they have hidden Nocturnal's eye. Vaermina has a sort of a classic funny line here, or a funny personality trait, which is that he is obsessed with killing rats. And he tells us here that a guy came to Leowin to open a fancy restaurant that only served rat-based meals. And when the restaurant was shut down, the rats that were left behind multiplied and spread all throughout Leowin. Now, it seems that these Argonians, Bejin and Vaermina, are not friendly to our investigation. But perhaps we can eavesdrop on them talking. So I think we'll have to pop outside so that they think we've left earshot. And as we're doing these quests, I'll also talk a little bit about the lore of the Daedric princes. Not anything super in-depth, but just a general overview. So for instance, Nocturnal is the Daedric prince of darkness, the night, mystery, thieves, stuff like that. And her Daedric realm is called the Evergloam. The Evergloam. And you can say it with me now, folks. Why did my neighbor turn on their washing machine right as I started recording a video? I've said that in like multiple videos. Seems to happen quite frequently. But that's alright. That's alright. Nocturnal has a relatively large role in Skyrim. If you've played Skyrim, and in particular done the Thieves Guild questline, you will have seen Nocturnal feature prominently, along with her Order of Nightingales. And Nocturnal's quest in Oblivion is one that I often do very early, because it rewards you with the skeleton key, an unbreakable lockpick. And I do not love engaging with the lockpicking minigame in Oblivion. So I always just rush to get the skeleton key, and then spam the auto attempt button from then on out to open every lock I come across. And one thing that I didn't like about the Nocturnal questline in Skyrim is that you have to return the skeleton key and lose it, which was very sad for me, as somebody who likes to just brute force through the lockpicking minigame and not really engage with it. I'm looking at these maggots because they're like weird. They're like growing or slowly spreading out. It's sort of a weird asset. Don't really understand why it looks like that, or what it's even doing there. I mean, why is there a pile of grubs just in the middle of a cave? Anyway, to talk a little bit about the Daedric quests in Oblivion, and here's the Eye of Nocturnal. A sphere, a crystal ball, in a sort of spider-like frame. The Daedric quests in Oblivion are very... they all have the same format. Unlike in Skyrim. In Skyrim, the Daedric Prince quests are sort of hidden. They are something that you stumble across. You might start a quest. You usually start a quest in Skyrim not knowing that it has anything to do with the Daedra. And then, at a certain point in the quest, the Daedric Prince's involvement is revealed. As is the case with, for instance, the quest for Sanguine, which is a very memorable quest in Skyrim where you go drinking with a man at a bar, and then you wake up the next morning with no memory of the previous night's events. And then you have to, wind your way around and figure out what happened that night before. But in Oblivion, all the quests take place the same way. You find the shrine of the particular Daedric Prince, and you give them an offering, and then they give you a task to complete. And then you return to the shrine and are rewarded with their boon. Also, I'm putting the dialogue up on the screen for what Nocturnal is saying here, because it's funny, in the original Oblivion, the Daedric Prince shrines were very annoying to understand what they were saying because there were no subtitles, and they were a lot quieter when they spoke than the surrounding ambient noises. So it's very hard to hear them. I was hoping that would be improved upon in the remaster, but not really, or at least they tried to, but it's very buggy. And the subtitles sometimes don't even appear. And sorry, my brain just wandered off there for a minute. And sometimes when the Daedric Princes are speaking to you, their audio cuts out entirely, and so you can't even hear what they're saying. So this is the statue of Sanguine, and you can see in the Oblivion version, this is very similar. They're pretty much identical. And we had to offer Cyrodiilic brandy to Sanguine in order for him to give us a quest. And he is telling us to go to the Countess of Leowin's party and cast a spell on her dinner party that he says will liven up the place. So this quest was kind of buggy for me, and I don't remember how I edited this, if I cut out the bugginess or if I did the final, or if I just did it when it worked, but I had to reload this a few times because the Countess of Leowin was not at the party, and it was causing the quest to not be able to be completed. And in fact, I was failing the quest. This was also a funny thing here where the guard you're supposed to have to get dressed up in party clothes to get in. Yeah, there we go. There's the Sanguine spell that livens up the party. makes everybody naked. They're all running around. But I have not affected the Countess yet, and so I'm just running around the castle. And there we go. Yeah, so I cut out all the failed attempts, but yeah, it wasn't working because the Countess wasn't at the party for some reason. But when I shot the spell around the castle, it eventually worked. So now I need to flee from the guards who are not happy with me stripping the Countess and her noble guests of their clothing. So I'm going to flee through the city in my underwear and escape into the countryside. Sanguine, as you might have inferred from this questline, is the Daedric prince of partying, basically. Indulgence, hedonism, drinking, perversion, all those sorts of things. And his realm of Oblivion is called the Myriad Realms of Revelry. He's not my favorite Daedric prince. I'll talk about some of the ones that I really like as we go through the video. But he's a fine one. I like how, I like his quests in Oblivion and Skyrim. They're fun and unique and silly. And the quality of his quests are good, but his his fear of partying and drinking and sex and stuff is like, I don't know, it's not very interesting to me. Well, I guess Mephala is technically the Daedric prince of sex, but I think it plays into Sanguine's as well, naturally, with parties and hedonism and stuff. Some of the Daedric prince's spheres overlap a little bit. But yeah, wait, I had the glitch again here, so putting the text up on screen of what Sanguine says. And he gives us all of our stuff back and rewards us with the Rose of Sanguine. A staff. Sorry, the Sanguine Rose. The Sanguine Rose. And, it's a cool looking staff. What's kind of fun is that in the main quest, you meet the character Martin. He's a main character in the main quest. And he was a worshipper of Sanguine at one point, if you talk to him about his background. Now we're moving on to Malacath. And, this guy is cut up. I'm just admiring his muscles. Holy cow. That dude is hitting the gym. So you offer him troll fat. And he gives you a quest saying that Lord Drod took his ogres and enslaved them. And he wants you to go rescue his ogres from their enslavement.
So, that is what we're going to do.
But yeah, there's a point in the main quest where you have to give Martin a Daedric artifact. And he has a unique line of dialogue, depending on which one you give him.
And if you give him the Sanguine Rose, he mentions that he once owned it himself.
That he wielded it for a time.
So, Malacath, that big himbo guy from the statue, he is the Daedric Prince of Battle, kind of a warrior prince, but also of
the rejected. He takes into his domain the spurned people of the world, like the orcs and ogres and trolls and such.
Malacath has actually some interesting lore.
And I'll talk about that, but right now I'm just trying to persuade the Drods to tell me where the ogres are. So I'm doing the little persuasion minigame to get Lady Drod to like me.
But Malacath
was once a different entity called Trinimac.
And Trinimac was, well, you know what, let me back up.
The Aedra versus the Daedra. There's a whole lot of creation mythology in the Elder Scrolls involving this guy named Lorkhan and all these spirits from long ago when the world was created. And it's very cool and very interesting. It's a very cool bit of world building. I'm not going to dive into that in this video. But just know when we're talking about the Daedra,
we are talking about a term defined by the elves who defined the Aedra versus the Daedra. And the Aedra means that they are the ancestors of the elves.
And Daedra means not our ancestors, from the perspective of the elves. So just as a bit of a backstory on the terminology and who the Daedra are, and that's not necessarily like completely accurate. Not every single Daedra falls into that so cleanly. For instance, Hermaeus Mora is said to have been created from like the scraps of creation, the leftover bits that never went anywhere, I think. And so that's not quite the same background of, somebody like Boethia.
But, the elves, a lot of the differences with the elves are how they relate to the Aedra and the Daedra. Some elves want to transcend creation. Basically, they think that
the creation of the world was a mistake, and they wish that it could be unmade so that the elves could return to their proper state of being, and that their ancestors were tricked into creating the world. Whereas other elves, like the Dunmer, are guided by the Daedra and see the mortal world as sort of a trial or a test that you can conquer, that you can pass. I'm getting too much into the lore. What I wanted to say is just that Malacath was once an entity called Trinimac, and Trinimac was devoured by Boethia, who is another Daedric prince.
And Boethia ate Trinimac, and then,
to put it bluntly,
defecated him out. And that pile of excrement was Malacath.
So, I think it was the elves who followed Trinimac, who worshipped Trinimac, ended up becoming the orcs. And now with everything in the Elder Scrolls,
there's a lot of disagreement about creation myths, and a lot of disagreement about the identity of certain figures, and the history and the mythology is actually really cool, because cultures have different versions of the same stories.
And so, if I say something like Malacath was created when Boethia ate him, and then, shat him out, that's just one version of the tale. And there's usually, competing narratives with these things in the Elder Scrolls, which is part of what I find very compelling about the lore.
But yeah, Malacath, he's
kind of an underdog in that sense. He is he's the patron of underdogs. He's the patron of people who are rejected and stuff like that.
And his realm of Oblivion is called the Ash Pits.
Malacath is also important in Dunmer mythology, who are the Dark Elves, because he is one of the four corners of the House of Troubles, along with Molag Bal, Mehrunes Dagon, and Sheogorath.
And what that means is
that the House of Troubles is an idea in the Dunmer that these four Daedra are kind of testing the Daedra. They are throwing difficult things at the Dunmer. Sorry, I said testing the Daedra. I think I meant testing the Dunmer.
These four Daedra are testing the Dunmer by throwing difficult things at them. So,
Molag Bal, corrupts the Dunmer blood and body by sending stuff like vampirism.
Malacath tests them with physical threats of violence, with, orc raiders and stuff.
tests them with mental illness and madness.
And who's the fourth?
Who did I leave out? Molag Bal, Malacath, Sheogorath, and somebody else. Who is it? Who's the fourth one? Oh, Mehrunes Dagon, that's right. Mehrunes Dagon tests them with their harsh environment. They live in, Morrowind and Vardenfell, which has volcanic activity all the time and ash in the sky, and it's a very inhospitable environment, and Mehrunes Dagon is seen as the progenitor of that element of trial.
But yeah.
I have rescued the ogres. If you were watching, I let them all out of their cells. And so I'm back to visiting Malacath's shrine. And we will turn in the quest. And sorry, I just can't stop staring at him. I mean, look at that body. Wowie zowie. So he is very happy with our work here. And he is going to reward us with his Daedric artifact called Volendrung, which is a very powerful warhammer.
And it's also very heavy, so I am now
over encumbered.
But let's go take a look at it. Volendrung.
It's a very powerful weapon because it paralyzes on a hit, which is a very useful effect.
It looks very small though, doesn't it?
You would sort of expect it to be bigger, or at least I would.
But yeah, there's something kind of fun in the aftermath of this quest as well.
The quest is over, but you can, if you go explore back to the Drawd estate, you'll see something fun. So I think I'm gonna fast travel over there now. Yep.
So let's see what's going on
at Lord Drawd's estate now that we've freed the ogres. We've got an ogre standing outside Lord Drawd's house. And look at that.
Looks like the Drawds have been forced into slavery by the ogres that they once enslaved.
So that's just a funny little ending to the quest. I like stuff like that where, if you didn't think to return to the estate, you wouldn't know that this had happened. It kind of rewards exploration.
Now we are at Namira's shrine.
And Namira demands that we be ugly to speak with her. And what that means in gameplay terms is that we have to find a way to get our personality very low.
And so an easy way to do that is to drink a bunch of cheap wine. And then we can go talk to Namira.
the Daedric prince of rotten, disgusting things. Slugs and spiders and stuff like that.
And her statue is pretty similar to her Oblivion one.
She's got that little imp creature hiding behind her leg.
The only thing that is kind of notably different, and you can't really tell from the angle that I'm at in the recording here, but they,
Let's just say they made her a little more modest. If you look at that Oblivion photo that I'm going to put in the video, you'll see that Namira is somewhat well endowed, you could say, and flaunting that a little bit. And I guess in the remastered version they decided to tone that down a bit.
And, now that I think about it,
I think all the female Daedric prince statues that were a little, that were kind of sexy before, I guess, kind of got toned down in the sex appeal department. Which is kind of funny because that didn't happen to the male statues. I mean, I was drooling over Malacath 5 minutes ago. And then Sanguine is still, he's just got like a loincloth on. I don't know, maybe it'll refresh my memory as I watch through this video and see all the statues again, but
I feel like the developers of the remastered version,
they did the women a little dirty in the sex appeal department, even as they were cranking up that factor on the dudes. I believe in equal opportunity hotness.
Anyway.
Sorry, that was a stupid tangent.
But yeah, this quest line is a very basic one. It's a very simple little one, but it's kind of fun,
kind of interesting. Namira tells you that her loathsome followers who just creep around in the darkness are being tormented by these priests of Arche who are bringing light into Namira's followers' little dungeon here.
And you have to go to each of the priests
and hit them with a spell that douses their torch. And then you have to let Namira's followers kill the priests.
So, it's not a very complex quest. It's a pretty quick one.
But it's memorable to me. Just conceptually, I think it's it's a fun idea. It's unique.
One thing I always remembered about this ruin was the unique assets. Here, there are these Oblivion sigils inscribed,
and like Daedric script inscribed in various places that you don't see elsewhere in the game.
And I guess that's because of Namira's followers, presumably. But
I just remembered it as having these unique assets in here that always stood out to me.
But yeah, the Daedric Daedric brings quest lines in Oblivion. It has some very memorable quests, some very high quality quests, and then it also has some pretty lame, uninspired ones, which is fine. I mean, not every quest has to be sometimes you need a quest that's just simple, right? Go here, kill a person, go back. The ones we've done so far, I would say Nocturnal is fine. It's not super interesting. You just, find out where the eye is hidden and then kill some trolls to get it. Sanguine has a fun one, where you make the whole party naked. Kind of a fun, unique idea. Malacath has kind of a fun one. You have to free the ogres, and if you free the ogres, they help you kill the guards in the cave, and then obviously at the end, the ogres enslave their previous owners. And then Namira's quest is very simple, not very involved, but it's kind of fun. And he rewards us with the Ring of Namira, which reflects damage and spells, partially. Oh, and Namira's realm is called the Scuttling Void. I don't know if I mentioned that. And her domain also includes cannibalism and the Void. I think she's supposed to be the wife of Sithis. Or wait. No, maybe that's Mephala. Namira has a connection to the Void, I know that, but Namira's like associated with the ancient darkness that existed before creation. I think she is said to have been, Lorcan came and spoke with her before creating the world. Anyway, here we are at Hircine's shrine. Hircine, of course, is the hunter, the Daedric Prince of Hunting. His realm is called the Hunting Grounds. He is the creator of lycanthropy and sees lycanthropes as like his children, I guess, or he's their patron. I love his design with the deer skull that he wears on his head. But yeah, when I recorded this footage, I had actually already killed the unicorn that Hircine sends us to kill. But just so you could see it, I reloaded an old save where I was far too weak to do this section. And yeah, Hircine wants you to go kill a unicorn and bring him its horn. And the unicorn is protected by 3 minotaurs. But yeah, I had already collected the unicorn horn, so I return it to Hircine. Again, not a very involved quest line. You can complete it in like 3 minutes, but killing a unicorn, and I think it's supposed to be the last living unicorn in the lore. It's kind of a cool little quest. And he rewards you with the Savior's Hide, which is a cuirass that reflects or resists magic. And it is dripped up, man. I remember in the original Oblivion, it was so ugly. I thought it was so ugly. But in the remaster, they have made the Savior's hide much cooler looking.
To the point where I'm not embarrassed wearing it now. Alright, so now we are over at Azura.
Azura is one of the, I guess, most prominent Daedric princes in the Elder Scrolls games. She plays a central role in
The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind,
because she is the patron of the Nerevarine.
And in Morrowind, the idea is that you are the reincarnation of the Nerevarine.
Or at least, that is a theory
that you could be. And over the course of the game, you have to sort of test out whether you really are or not.
Azura is interesting because her actual realm is not very
Exciting to me. She's the patron, like her realm contains the dawn and the dusk. But
she's not like super, like that's not super engaging to me. But her as a character, as sort of a personality,
is much more interesting than her sphere would suggest. She is very vain, and she wants her followers to love her. Not just worship her, not just sacrifice to her, but really love her.
And she is considered one of the quote-unquote good Daedra.
And there are 3 of these so-called good Daedra: Azura, Boethia, and Mephala.
And when we say good Daedra in this context, it doesn't really mean like
good by our standards. It means that they were the patrons of the Dunmer, and that they helped the Dunmer. They gave them techniques and lessons that the Dunmer needed to create their society and succeed as a society.
So Azura was one of those, and Azura is, and those 3 Dunmer,
or the 3 good Daedra,
were also the so-called anticipations of the tribunal gods.
If you played Morrowind, you will know of Almalexia, Vivek, and Sotha Sil,
who were the 3 gods of the Dunmer for a time. And each of them took on the authority, I suppose you could say, of one of the 3 good Daedra. So Vivek took on Mephala. Azura
was Sotha Sil, right?
And then
Boethia was Almalexia. I think that's right.
But yeah, Azura's quest here, she tells us that long ago some of her followers went and killed a
vampire.
But they were all infected with vampirism.
And we're all sealed away in this cavern.
And Azura loves them, and she doesn't want them to
continue to suffer as vampires.
And so she asks you to go put her followers out of their misery. In terms of the quest, it's an okay quest. You know, in terms of what you're actually doing, you're just walking to a cave and
killing a handful of vampires. It's not very interesting, but the framing of it, the idea that these were 5 loyal servants of Azura who were all infected, carrying out this mission for her. And now she wants you to go free them from their suffering that they gained from doing that for her. Is, I find, a very, it's a compelling plot. So, even though what you're actually doing in the quest isn't very interesting, I like the quest as, as a concept.
And I believe that was all of them.
I think so. Yep. So now I just have to return to Azura's shrine and receive the reward.
And the reward, of course, is Azura's star. Azura's star, which is a very useful item.
It is an infinitely reusable grand soul gem.
Normally when you
use a soul gem, it is destroyed and it disappears from your inventory.
But Azura's star is so very useful because you can just keep refilling it. So
it is, if you get to the point in the main quest of Oblivion where you have to turn in a Daedric artifact to Martin, and you will never see it again, I would strongly advise that you do not give him Azura's star. It is far too useful to be thrown aside. Unless you're just not using enchanted weapons or something. For whatever reason, it is a very, very useful item.
And now we can turn in the quest.
Thank you, mortal. Their spirits are free, and henceforth above my shrine 5 bright candles shall burn forever in memory of their sacrifice.
Azura is one of the...
In Skyrim I said that the Daedric princes all sort of pop up randomly. Well, Azura is one that does have an actual shrine that you have to go to receive the quest. Also, I like this up here, the candles that she said are gonna burn in honor of her followers. And here she is holding a star, and in her other hand, I slipped, but she's holding a moon, which is, of course, the moon and star is related to Azura and she even has a ring called Moon and Star,
which she gave to the Nerevarine, and it supposedly would kill anybody that put it on other than the Nerevarine.
If anybody else put it on, they would instantly die. And now here we are at Mephala. And the statues in the two versions look pretty similar. I would say basically identical.
Now this is a very fun little quest. Mephala wants us to go to a town called Bleaker's Way
and turn the two families that live there against one another. Figure out how to make them kill each other. And she wants us to kill the two leaders of the family and then plant evidence indicating that the other family was responsible for the murder.
And of course, we can't be caught because that would spoil the whole plot. Mephala is not a very nice prince. She is the patron of lies and murder and sex and strife
and schemes, deception and all that. And she likes to create conflict, as exhibited in this quest.
And her plane of Oblivion is called the Spiral Skein.
Despite me saying that Mephala is not very nice, she is, as I mentioned earlier, considered one of the good Daedra of the Dunmer.
And that just means that she has taught the Dunmer lessons on how to survive.
And so, teaching the Dunmer how to scheme and lie for their own benefit has helped them survive.
She is also the creator of the Molag Tong. The Molag Tong. And the Molag Tong is a very cool
piece of Elder Scrolls lore. You don't really encounter them in Oblivion and Skyrim too much. In Oblivion, you get a little bit of one popping up in the Mehrunes Razor DLC questline.
And you also, in Skyrim, get some Molag Tong action in
the Solstheim DLC.
But they're a very cool organization. They are an organization of legal assassins. So they're not criminal. You can't arrest somebody for being in the Molag Tong,
even if they have murdered somebody. Because, and this is in Dunmer society. This is over in Morrowind. So how it works is that
somebody can hire the Molag Tong, and then the Molag Tong gets a writ of assassination. And what that means is that the Molag Tong can dispatch an agent to legally kill the person that is listed on the writ.
And the idea behind this, why it is accepted in Dunmer culture, is that it helps prevent outright war.
by giving the great houses of Morrowind a way to compete with each other and fight with each other without marching armies onto each other's property.
The idea is that it diffuses tension or minimizes collateral damage of conflict and competition between the Morrowind great houses.
And the Molag Bal is in conflict with the Dark Brotherhood. They are at odds with one another.
And I don't know this lore super well, but I think Mephala might have helped create the Dark Brotherhood because the Molag Bal had strayed from their purpose or something like that. That Mephala might be the Night Mother. I can't remember if it's supposed to be Mephala or Namira that is the Night Mother. To some degree. I don't remember. My mind says it's Mephala, but then when I think about it, I'm like, but Namira would kind of make more sense because of her connection to the void.
So my apologies, I'm not remembering that off the top of my head.
Also, I'm wandering around in this quest right now because I was kind of forgetting what I had to do. But, yeah, here we go. I got back on track. You have to go find a piece of evidence in each person's house and then plant it on the body of the other family members, the corpse of the other family's leader. So, I'm figuring it out. I'm working through it.
So now I'm wandering through the other home, trying to find whatever it might be.
Also, I keep going into third person when I'm casting this candlelight spell because the light spell is kind of buggy in Oblivion Remastered, and I found that it was more likely to work if I was in third person. Alright, so I got the 2 pieces of evidence, and now I just need to wait for one of the family members to be back in the house.
And,
oh yeah, I was wondering if I could just take him out right here, because both of them were together, and I was wondering if I killed them before anybody, without anybody else in the house, if that would count or if that would fail the quest. But it did indeed fail the quest, as you'll see in a second.
yeah, so,
Even though there are no witnesses, you can't just blast them like that, I suppose. But that's okay. We just wait again. And we'll do it right this time.
I think it's fun that in Skyrim you kind of stumble onto the Daedric Prince quests, but
I also like how in Oblivion, it makes you feel like a Daedra worshipper, You're not just randomly bumping into the Daedra princes. You have to actively seek them out and make them an offering and pray that they will speak to you.
And to me, that's sort of a more fun, well, I mean, I like it both ways.
But, yeah, I think in Elder Scrolls 6, I think it would be cool if there was a healthy mix of both, you know, if it was like half and half or something. There were some Daedric princes that you had to go to their shrine or temple and make an offering to communicate with them.
And then it would also be cool if, you know, there were a couple of them that you just randomly stumbled into, discovering that you had become entangled with a Daedric prince.
But yeah, this quest is one of the most memorable Daedric Prince quests in Oblivion for me. Just creating strife in a community like this, and you'll see how it ends in a minute.
Oh yeah, and to avoid getting a bounty, I am using the persuasion minigame
On these guys to make them hate me so much that once I finish talking to them, they will attack me first. And then I'm justified in, you know, self-defense.
That was something you could do in Morrowind as well. Was like goad people into attacking you.
I don't remember that being a thing in Skyrim. I'm pretty sure it's not. I feel like I would remember that, but... And I just had to replace the dagger on this guy because I didn't trigger the quest stage properly, but here we go.
And the evidence is planted. And now I can
load, or wait rather. Wait around a bit so that the people come out for the day. And then go talk to somebody. Go talk to somebody.
If I can find anybody to speak to. There we go. Alright.
These are troubled times in Bleaker's Way. Rahl Ulfgar has been murdered, and the Dalvilu are responsible. They will pay for their treachery, the wretched Dunmer. Dalvilu has been murdered, and we have been accused of the crime, bastard elves, that they would dishonor us in this way.
And there they go. The Dunmer and the Nord families have turned on each other in the streets of Bleaker's Way.
And they are killing each other. Mephala's web of deceit and intrigue has been successful. And now we will see who comes out on top. One of the Nords is already dead, so things are looking bad for them. Yep, alright. Another Nord is dead. And that is the last Nord. All of the Ulfgars in Bleaker's Way have now been killed.
And how we can return to Mephala and claim our reward.
Claim our reward, which is the Ebony Blade. The Ebony Blade. Well done, little web spinner. Is there a prettier sight than friends at war?
Take pleasure in the strife you have caused, mortal. Savor the divine essence of a well-spun plot.
And here's a little needle to help you stitch your own tangled tapestries. Your own tangled tapestries.
So the ebony blade silences people it hits, meaning they can't cast spells.
And it also drains health. So it's a pretty useful little weapon.
So here we have Peryite, the Shrine of Peryite.
And it looks pretty identical to its original version. And when we speak to Peryite, he says, "This one moves, a welcome change. So, mortal, you have found my shrine and you have seen my followers. They are an embarrassment to me.
The fools cast a spell in the hopes of summoning me to them. It was prideful and foolish, and it has had its consequences. My followers are trapped between worlds, their bodies here on this plane, their souls in Oblivion. I would have you reunite the bodies and the souls. I will transport you to the plane of Oblivion in which they are trapped.
Find their souls. When all are collected, I will return you here. Return to me when you are prepared."
So, Peryite is... he's the prince of...
natural order is how it's often phrased. His plane of Oblivion is called the Pits.
And what natural order means is...
the natural way of the world, right? He's often associated with plague, for instance, disease. And so, it is natural, it is within the natural order for disease to occasionally spread and destroy life.
But he's also associated with, for instance,
cleansing pus. Pus is disgusting, but it is a way to fight infection. So Peryite is both the disease and he is the cure. He is the natural way of the world. Things get sick, things die, things might heal, and so on.
He's also called the Taskmaster, which is a reference to the fact that he,
I think, controls or oversees weak Daedra. He manages the menial tasks of Oblivion, like the janitor of a building or something.
But yeah, I would say he's not one of the more interesting princes to me.
I don't quite understand him totally. He doesn't feel very cohesive to me. The idea of natural order is a little bit of a vague notion for me. And why is he a dragon? What does that have to do with his domain? Also, his quest in Oblivion kind of sucks. I know, it's kind of funny that the followers are frozen and you have to go rescue their souls. I don't hate that concept, but
how that manifests in gameplay is that you're just walking through the Deadlands,
the lava wasteland of this game, and just going and finding these spirits and tapping them, and they get sent back, and you have to go tap on every spirit in the area. And it's just very bland and uninteresting.
It's also like there's another Daedric quest with Boethia where you enter Boethia's plane of Oblivion.
And I mean, I don't know if this is technically supposed to be Peryite's realm of Oblivion or not, but definitely the Boethia quest. You're in Boethia's plane.
And my only issue is just that, like, it kind of stinks to go to these planes of the other princes and find them to be identical to Mehrunes Dagon's plane.
The Deadlands that you've been going through all the Oblivion gates and trudging through for the whole of the video game. So it's just kind of boring in that sense.
And I totally understand the developers not wanting to create a whole bespoke, interesting area for one little Daedric Prince quest. But
it's just kind of lame because, you know, if you're in Peryite's plane of Oblivion, you know that it shouldn't have anything to do with Mehrunes Dagon's, but it's fine. It's just, it just contributes to this quest being kind of bland, in my opinion. I would say this is one of the worst Daedric Prince quests. Maybe the worst, to be honest, in the whole game. Meridia's is also kind of lame. Yeah, I mean, some of them are a little simple. For instance, like Hircine, where you just get the quest, you walk 100 feet over the unicorn, you kill it, and you go back to the shrine, but at least it's kind of unique, and you fight a unique enemy that you don't see anywhere else. Peryite's also,
you know, it just, it doesn't have anything to do with his sphere.
like,
What does the natural order of Peryite have to do with his followers getting their souls caught in
Oblivion and needing to be rescued?
It's just a random task that could theoretically have been from any Daedric Prince, you know? If you swapped out the name, this quest would work equally well with any of the other princes.
Oh yeah, my followers were foolish and tried to summon me, and now their souls are caught in Oblivion. Go rescue them.
But yeah, it's fine. As I said before, not every quest needs to be,
You know, the winner of the year.
but it's a bit of a shame in particular that it's Peryite, because I think Peryite is sort of, he's already low on the list of, like, interesting Daedric princes. He doesn't
have a ton about him that really grabs you, from my perspective.
And so, for him, it would have been more impactful for him to get a really cool quest, because there's so little about him already that's
very interesting or cool.
But his quest in Skyrim is pretty cool. He's like vomiting followers that are kind of nasty. But yeah, I'm just running around, trying to find my way through the lava.
Trying to find my way to these little spirits, so I can move on with my life.
Yeah, Peryite also, not to keep dragging him, so I'll say one thing I like about him is his design.
I said I don't understand why he's a dragon, and that's true.
But I like his design visually. How it's this very long, lanky dragon.
Very skinny, very snake-like. It's interesting. It's an interesting look.
This lava.
It's very nice once you get to 75 acrobatics. You can hop across the surface of liquids.
And it makes it very easy to navigate the lava in Oblivion, because you can just hip, hop, hop all the way across the lava, and you take very minimal damage.
But we can just hop over these rocks here, staying safe from the molten magma.
But I was gonna say, Peryite's artifact that you get as a reward in this game, and
in Skyrim as well, is it doesn't quite work for me as a Daedric artifact. It's called Spellbreaker, and it's a Dwemer shield that has a large degree of spell reflection or spell resistance.
And it just doesn't really it doesn't tie into Peryite's theme at all for me.
It just seems like a Dwemer artifact, you know? I don't see what relation it has to Peryite. What relation does it have to the natural order? To plague or cures or whatever? But yeah, those are my thoughts on Peryite. I'm open to liking him. I just think that he's been kind of underutilized, and there's not a lot written about him, and so he hasn't had much chance to be fleshed out as a very cool Daedric prince.
But maybe in Elder Scrolls 6, who knows? Anything could happen in Elder Scrolls 6. Anything is possible
in Elder Scrolls 6. I am very excited for that game. Starfield was not great. But I don't know, for some reason I still find myself optimistic about Elder Scrolls 6. I think because they'll be going back to their familiar terrain of a fantasy story, of a fantasy world, you know. Starfield was new, and they were trying something new, and it was pretty bad, and I don't understand how it ended up as bad as it did, to be honest, but I have a sort of optimism that when they go back to the Elder Scrolls world, they're just going to be more confident. They're going to have their stuff together a little more. But who knows, maybe I'm deluding myself.
We're back, thank Peryite.
Our time must now be spent in prayer. Perfect order must be achieved. Perfect order must be achieved, yeah.
I don't know, I kind of feel like the Oblivion writers didn't even really know what Peryite was about.
Because it's like, I don't know, the priests are just saying perfect order must be achieved. What does that even mean? Like, that sounds more like a thing that Sheogorath would say, the Daedric Prince of Order, rather than Peryite, the Daedric Prince of Natural Order. But either way, I think his statue is really cool. It's a very cool design. And this is pretty much exactly what he looked like in Daggerfall as well.
If you, I don't know if you've played Daggerfall or not. I haven't played Daggerfall, but...
Oh, here's Molag Bal, by the way. Molag Bal, the Daedric Prince of Domination.
I haven't played Daggerfall, but all of the Daedric princes appear there.
And their designs are pretty cool. Some of them look very similar, some of them are significantly changed. But Peryite looks very similar to his Daggerfall version.
Molag Bal, I actually like his Oblivion appearance the most. He's this weird, like, humanoid lizard thing.
I don't quite know how to describe him, but I like his look. In the Elder Scrolls Online, for instance, he's just kind of this,
I mean, he's very cool, don't get me wrong, I like that design as well, but he just looks like kind of a generic big demon monster thing.
That's not a problem. But in Oblivion, I like that he gives more of a almost an Egyptian god look, where it's like a human body with a animal-like head.
Anyway, Molag Bal wants us to corrupt a man.
Corrupt a man in this town, so we have to find a way to sully his virtue. So first, we're going to talk to the townsfolk around here, and they say that he helped the town for years, was sort of a local hero, but then when his wife died, he vanished, went off to live by himself in a cabin. That his grief was too much for him when his wife died.
And he swore never to raise a weapon again.
And so Molag Bal wants us to... He has given us a mace, and he wants us to get this man who swore to never raise a weapon again to kill us with this mace.
And Molag Bal will resurrect us, he said.
He will resurrect us once this man, Melis Petilius or something, kills us.
So here's his home, but he's not home at the moment. And I remember
I got a little confused here, trying to remember how to get this guy to kill me. And it would have been a little easier, I think. But I actually caught him when he was at the grave of his wife. And you have to drop the mace for him so that he has a weapon to kill you with. And if you try to talk to him, he's not really interested in talking to you. He wants to spend time with his wife.
It's very strange seeing characters with facial hair in Elder Scrolls.
In Oblivion, I'm whacking the tomb or the gravestone because I thought maybe that's how you got him to kill you. I was thinking too heavily. I tried to get him to kill me by lowering his opinion to 0, but that still didn't work.
I tried activating the tombstone.
He's praying by his wife's grave. And eventually I figure it out.
But I'm standing here totally stumped, like, what do I do? And then
I think eventually, I don't know how long it's going to take for me to put it together.
I'm like looking for a clue on the grave or something, I don't know.
I feel very silly in retrospect, but the solution is very obvious. Maybe you've already figured it out yourself.
Yep, there we go.
You just had to attack him.
And now, because we attacked him at the grave of his wife, he puts aside his vow and
attempts to kill us. So I stripped it down naked because it can take a while, especially if you have a lot of health and armor.
Fortunately, I didn't invest too heavily in endurance on this character, so he kills us pretty quick. And Molag Bal has revived us.
Well, it seems you've accomplished the task set out for you. Well done. Another man damned, another ruined soul. But you'll still get your prize, won't you? I think it was worth it, don't you? Keep up the good work, little mortal.
And he gives us the Mace of Molag Bal. I don't think I said, but Molag Bal is the Daedric Prince of Domination.
His realm is called Cold Harbor. If you played the Elder Scrolls Online, he was a major antagonist in that.
He is the father of vampires.
He is also the prince of sexual impropriety, I guess you could say. Forcible sexual interactions. And he has fathered many children by that. And those children have, are major parts of Elder Scrolls lore.
I guess Molag Bal is kind of like Zeus in that way. But yeah, Molag Bal fathered the vampires.
Oh yeah, and here we are at Meridia, the next Daedric prince.
This is one of the biggest statue redesigns. I mean, it's a totally different model.
I guess I guess this goes to our earlier point about the Daedric princess getting a little, shall we say, de-yassified, the opposite of yassification. Meridia was throwing out that thigh there in the OG version, but now she's a little more conservative.
It's no problem, you know, I respect however Meridia chooses to dress. Meridia is a very interesting Daedric prince because she wasn't always a Daedric prince. She was what was called a Magna Gi. And again, I won't go into that because that's lore that's too big for this video, but she became a Daedric prince. And from that association, from that history, I think she has kind of a unique portfolio and unique relationships. For instance, she's connected to the Aelids, the Old Elves, who were kind of some of her favored children. She is associated with light. She's called the Lightbringer. And life energy, sort of positive life energy. She hates the undead. She's associated with the sun. Her realm is called the Colored Rooms, and she is associated with Umaril, the Unfeathered, the last Aeliad king, or rather not the last Aeliad king, but the last. He had a special role. He was like the mega king, like the king of kings. Every Aeliad city had a king, and I think Umaril the Unfeathered was the king above all of those kings. I think there's a specific title that I'm not remembering, but yeah, Meridia liked him, and this is actually a whole DLC questline in Oblivion. If you're playing a remastered version and you want to start it for yourself, you can go to Anvil and talk to the preaching prophet outside the Chapel of Dibella. It's a whole plot line about how Umaril the Unfeathered has returned to Tamriel because Pelinal Whitestrake did not kill him fully the first time. And Meridia is kind of behind that, to a certain degree. And Meridia's quest here in Oblivion is, you know, next to Peryite's, probably the lamest quest. I would say I like it a little more than Peryite's, just because I really get sick of going into the Deadlands all the time in this game. Closing Oblivion Gate after Oblivion Gate, running through that lava zone gets a little boring. So having to run through it a bunch for Peryite's quest is not super enjoyable to me. But yeah, Meridia's quest is kind of lame here. It's literally just go kill some necromancers. And, you know, as I've said multiple times, not every quest has to be the bee's knees, so it's not the end of the world. Obviously, Meridia's quest in Skyrim is very memorable. It became a bit of a meme when she would say, "A new hand touches the beacon." And you got that cool sword, Dawnbreaker, I think. I liked that sword in Skyrim. That was a cool sword. But yeah, we just have a cavern full of necromancers and their undead servants.
So we just have to clear them all out. But yeah, Meridia, she's got beef with the undead. She doesn't like them. And that's her quest in Skyrim as well. Going into that old ruin and killing the undead inside. So I guess the developers, when they think of Meridia, they think, oh, what would be a good quest for her? Probably just kill some undead.
The Daedric quests, they go back to Daggerfall.
The second Elder Scrolls game, when you could summon the Daedric princes, and they would all give you, I don't want to talk about things I don't understand, but I've never played Daggerfall, but I've watched a fair amount of gameplay of it.
And, me complaining about Peryite's quest or Meridia's quest here in Oblivion.
It seems like the Daedric quests in Daggerfall make these ones look like, fine dining. Because all of the Daedric princes in Daggerfall, they just, you summon them and they say, oh hey, go here, kill one person, and then go to another person to get the reward. So I guess if you're comparing it to Daggerfall, these are pretty amazing quests.
But yeah, we are back at Meridia's shrine.
Well done. Those creatures were an affront to all life, and they have paid the price for their actions.
Take this ring and go with my blessing.
And she has given us the Ring of Khajiit. The Ring of Khajiit, which gives us, makes us kind of sneaky. It gives us a degree of chameleon, and it fortifies our speed. It's a nice ring. It's a nice ring.
So here we are at Boethia's statue. And Boethia demands the sacrifice of a
Daedric heart. The heart of a Daedra.
And Boethia is
one of the 3 good Daedra that I told you about in the Dunmer culture.
Boethia is
has the sphere of betrayal, plots, competitions, coming out on top through whatever means necessary, I suppose.
It's another one that kind of overlaps heavily with some other Daedric princes.
There's obviously Mephala, who sort of exists in the realm of deceit like that and scheming. But anyway, Boethia.
This is the realms of attribution. Is that what it's called?
I think that's Boethia's plane, the realms of attribution. And oh no, it's attributions share. Attributions share.
And Boethia's quest is kind of a fun one. You have to fight one of every race except your own. Boethia has collected one of every species of humanoid in Tamriel and put them in this arena, basically, to compete with each other. So you have to fight your way through. And I will say, I didn't care so much about money in this run. But if you want to make buckets of money, or just get really good gear, the enemies that you fight in this mission, this quest for Boethia, they are equipped to the gills with good stuff. They have, they've all got enchanted gear, and they're all carrying insane amounts of, potions and stuff. I walked out of here with, I forget, it must have been 100 strong potions of healing or something like that. But yeah, I left a bunch of the gear behind because I just didn't care enough to want to walk back over encumbered and carry all the stuff to the exit. But if you do this mission, that's certainly something that you could consider doing. If you want to collect everything from all of your opponents here, you will get some very good gear. Yeah, Boethia, I did say earlier, was also was the creator of Malacath when he devoured Trinimac. But sorry, I'm just having this memory that when I was talking about the anticipations, I was saying one of the wrong Daedra. Maybe I don't remember. My mind just suddenly jumped in and said you said something wrong earlier. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, Boethia, I would say, is not a Daedric prince that I'm particularly drawn to. By the way, all the Daedric princes can appear in whatever form they choose, and it's said that they, sometimes switch how they present themselves in, gender and appearance and whatever, species even. Most of them, however, have a pretty established appearance, I would say. Sheogorath seems to always appear as a man, stuff like that. But Boethia is one that I think more consistently in the lore switches between man and woman. I feel like, whether or not the Boethia is a man or a woman changes, very relatively frequently in the stories, in the lore. So, I think with any of the Daedra, I know that the lore says the Daedra can always change themselves into whatever form they want. I think usually, however, for most of the Daedra, their appearance is always are relatively standard.
The variations in their appearance are relatively small.
I will also take this opportunity, as I'm just carving my way through the races of Tamriel, to say, this video is just on the Daedric Prince quests in Oblivion. There are more Daedric Princes that appear in the game, and there are more Daedric Princes in the lore, but
we're just doing the ones with quests here. So, for instance, Mehrunes Dagon is in this game. He's a major part of this game, in fact, but he is not. There's no quest for him.
Well, I guess now that maybe you could consider Mehrunes Razor to be his. Well, that's not really true. Yeah,
that's not a Daedric Prince quest. That's just a quest to acquire his artifact.
But yeah, there's Mehrunes Dagon, and there's Jigalag. He appears in this game as well, but
there's no quest, so we are not covering him today. Just for your edification, however, for your knowledge of the lore,
Mehrunes Dagon, I will say, he's actually a very cool Daedric Prince. I think at first glance, especially if you play Oblivion, he just seems like your bog standard evil devil man with no real depth or anything.
It's just like, oh, okay, Mehrunes Dagon just wants to destroy the world or something. How boring.
But he's actually a lot cooler than that. He is the Daedric Prince of change and revolution. And so, the thing about Mehrunes Dagon is like, he could be anybody's friend, right? If you are at the bottom of the heap, socially, politically, whatever, you might turn to Mehrunes Dagon, because if you're disenfranchised, if you're enslaved, if you're whatever, then a revolution sounds pretty good. And that's what Mehrunes Dagon offers. He doesn't offer destruction for destruction's sake, really. He offers destruction for change's sake. And that's why I've heard that, even though Mehrunes Dagon sort of loses at the end of Oblivion, in a broader sense, he kind of wins. He gets what he's all about, which is change,
Also, this person is taking me a long time to kill.
Because by the end of Oblivion, Tamriel has undergone a massive change, and the consequences of the Oblivion crisis are going to resonate for centuries down the line. So,
we don't get Skyrim as it stands if the Oblivion crisis doesn't happen. And when I say Skyrim, I mean the events of the game, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
But yeah, he's a cool
prince to me. And there's more depth to him than I think people who, have just played the Oblivion campaign might necessarily think.
Yeah. there's also Jigalag. Oh, and I should also say, Mehrunes Dagon is one of the four corners of the Dunmer House of Troubles, as I said earlier. And he represents the challenges of the land, of the volcanic terrain, and the ashy soil, and all that stuff. But yeah, Jigalag, he's another Daedric prince in Oblivion. He has a really cool story. He and Sheogorath are very connected. I mean, I guess minor spoilers. Well, not even minor. If you haven't played the Shivering Isles DLC in Oblivion, and you want to not know some revelations there, you could stop listening now, but otherwise I'll talk about the lore because I think it's interesting. So with Jigalag, he's the Daedric Prince of Order, and he's kind of cool because he's like, it's like that idea where if you understand every natural law of the universe, you could predict the future, right? If you believe in a deterministic universe, I guess. And Jigalag was like that. He was like, I can tell you everything that's going to happen in the future with my, my calculations, my total understanding of the world, behaving, as ordered. And he was also a threat to the other Daedric princes, and they were so scared of him that they ended up fusing him with Sheogorath, turning him into Sheogorath in a sense. And so Sheogorath would rule for a time, and then the Jigalag side of his personality would come out, and Jigalag would undertake the Grey March, which is this sort of march through the plains to bring about order and uniformity, and have everything be nice and logical and neatly ordered. And the other Daedric princes were like, we don't like that. And so they gave him a wonderfully poetic punishment by turning the Prince of Order into the Prince of Madness. And then at the end of the Shivering Isles DLC, of course, the hero of Kavach ends up becoming Sheogorath, mantling Sheogorath, it's called. And then Jigalag and Sheogorath are no longer the same person. But yeah, that's just a little more Daedric Prince lore. I have finished the Boethia quest at this point and was rewarded with a gold brand, this golden flaming katana, which does a lot of damage. I think it is maybe the highest damage dealing weapon in Oblivion, when you include its enchantment of the fire damage that it does. So here we are at the statue of Clavicus Vile. Clavicus Vile. This is one of my favorite Daedric princes. His sphere is bargaining, deals, granting power to mortals in exchange for, something from them, often their soul or whatever. And you get the sense that he likes to kind of haggle, and he likes the risk of making deals. Almost like if he comes out on the bad side of a deal, he doesn't entirely hate it, right? It's part of the thrill for him. Also, the statue here is, you can see they're pretty significantly different. In the original, he's like a little imp man. Much shorter, more childlike, with a single horn in his head. And he's meant to resemble one of his Daedric servants. I can't remember their name. They're called like Skaven, I think. Something like that. But, oh, what's this? Barbas is talking to us. Good. Got your attention. I'm Barbas, the Hound of Clavicus Vile. Not that I've always been a hound, or always been called Barbas. I've also been a red guard. For a while I was a scamp, making deals with orcs, but for now, I am his hound, and I serve the Lord of Clavicus. A word of advice here. You've made a bad deal. This Umbra, bad business. Things always end badly where that one's concerned. Clavicus has always been a little blind to that, and it'll end badly this time too. So, just leave things be. Walk away. It's your best bet, really. So, Clavicus Vile wants us to go recover the sword, Umbra. And we are to go to this town here, Bell's Gate, and learn about Umbra. And Umbra is a sword, but it's also a person that we are trying to find. And we will learn a little bit about why that sounds a little funny, right? It's the sword and it's the person, but we'll learn about that in a second once we go talk to this fellow. Because Umbra is actually a pretty cool artifact. So let's talk to Hiroki the Wide. He welcomes us to Pell's Gate, and we ask about Umbra. And we have to convince him, so we will have a little conversation with him, do a little persuasion minigame, and get him to like us. And a little tip with the persuasion minigame, by the way. If you don't want to deal with it too much, my solution that always works is just use whenever you're selecting one of the negative options, make sure you're always using the one block. And as long as you do that, you don't really have to worry about anything else. But anyway, he says, are you here asking about the sword or the person? And I say the person. Who is Umbra? I can tell you who Umbra used to be. Lenwyn. She's my apprentice. Or at least she was, until she found that sword. Never did say where it came from. She just showed up with it one day, said it was called Umbra, but she was different. She'd always been fair with a sword, but she began looking for fights, became bloodthirsty, then started calling herself Umbra, after the sword. Finally signed on with some mercenaries, but I hear that ended too. We haven't seen her in years. Tell me about the sword now. It's a powerful sword, no doubt about that. Jet black, got a wicked edge on it. Where is she now? Can't say for sure. Some say they've seen her nearby, near the Vindasal ruins.
Might just be wishful thinking, though. If she's around, she hasn't come to Bill's gate, nor should she. I fear that girl is long gone.
If you seek her out, take care. She's a powerful one, or at least that sword is. I'd steer clear if I was you.
So, we've learned about Umbra now, and it's kind of a cool artifact. It's sort of, it takes people over when they wield it. They become Umbra, they become the sword. And
I don't remember the sword's origins very well. I think it was made by a witch and, contained some hero or something. And got corrupted, something like that. I don't remember all the details, but
it also traps souls. Traps the souls of the people that it kills.
So mechanically, when you hit somebody with it, it casts the soul trap spell on them.
And what I do is I have an enchanted sword in my hotkey bar that I use for most of my fighting. But then I also have Umbra hotkeyed. And so when I'm fighting, I'll occasionally swap to Umbra so that I can soul trap my target and use Azura Star, which I always keep on me to recharge my magic items whenever I need.
So, Umbra is a very useful little tool to have on hand.
And here is Umbra. And I don't know what I'm doing here. I guess I'm brewing up some... Oh, I'm trying to restore my damaged stats, I guess. Getting a little frightened of the Umbra fight, I suppose. But yeah, here, let's talk to Umbra.
You risk much by speaking to me. You should leave this place now. Umbra is my blade. It is who I am, who I was meant to be. For years I have fed my blade the souls of man and mare, warriors and priests, kings and paupers, men, women, and children. All have bled for me. I have seen them all fall, and still Umbra hungers for more.
Do not speak to me of that place. It was another lifetime. It was before I became what I am now.
Perhaps they sent you to kill me, or they worried I might come in the night and burn their village down around them. No matter, I am what I have become, and I know my fate.
But what of you? What is it you seek? My death? My blade? I offer you a choice, more than I have offered most. Stay here and die, or leave now and live your life. Speak to me again when your mind is set.
This is your out, friend. Leave it alone.
How about we just march on back to the shrine and tell Clavicus the deal is off? Sure, he'll be a bit put out, but you won't be dead. At least, you probably won't. That's better odds than you're getting here.
No, of course,
We're not just going to be walking out of here without that sword, so... Also, Barbas is in our inventory as a little statuette of a dog.
I assume you've made your choice. Umbra hungers. What shall it be?
Come then, try your luck. Feel the bite of Umbra.
So, Clavicus Vile I really like. I like his
personality. I like that you can kind of get one over on him if you're clever with the deals that you make.
And I also really like that he has Barbas, that he's kind of two entities in one.
And that they're not always in agreement on what to do, right? That sometimes Barbas wants something different than what Clavicus wants, and in fact, that is very often the case.
So,
Oh, and Barbas is speaking again. I'm telling you, don't bring that sword back to Clavicus. It'll ruin him, I'm sure. I mean, not completely. He's still a Daedric prince. Look, keep the sword if you want, that's your decision. But don't give it back to Clavicus. He doesn't know what's good for him sometimes.
So, I wasn't sure what to do here when I was recording this, but
So I think I cut here at some point. But I did eventually decide that I wanted to keep Umbra. You have to decide whether to give him Umbra, in which case you receive the Mask of Clavicus Vile, which is heavy armor that fortifies your personality. Or, forego taking the mask and piss off Clavicus by keeping Umbra. I decided Umbra would be more useful to me in the long run, considering I don't even wear heavy armor.
But the mask is pretty cool. I like the mask.
Clavicus Vile, it's actually, that idea of him sort of occasionally, people getting one over him on their deals reminds me of Hircine. One of the things I like about Hircine is that he believes in the fairness of the hunt, and he really likes it when occasionally the hare becomes the hunter of the wolf. And I like that sense of fairness, and that idea that a mortal can sort of get one over on the Daedric prince.
You would dare. We had a bargain, little hero. You would risk my wrath for a pitiful little sword. I will be watching you, mortal, and waiting. Oh well, been good knowing you, kid. Back to being his hound for me. As for you,
good luck, I guess. I've met worse. And that is the quest for Clavicus Vile. I don't know if I said this, but his Daedric realm is called the Fields of Regret, I think. Which is, it's a fun name. It's all the people that have made deals with Clavicus that have come to regret their deal, right?
But yeah, now we have Umbra.
And now we will do Sheogorath's quest. The famous Sheogorath. One of the great meme Daedric princes. One of the great memes of the Elder Scrolls, right? He's always screaming about cheese and whatever. I do think that, I don't know, maybe he just had, if you were online at a certain time, it got a little cringe or overplayed. all the love for Sheogorath, but he's actually beyond the memes. He's a very cool prince. I think part of the reason there's so many memes about him is just because, you know, there's a lot of really cool stories about him. And obviously, we had a whole DLC
in Oblivion, the Shivering Isles, where you go to his plane, the Shivering Isles, and interact with him a lot, and so we all got to know him more than we did a lot of other Daedric princes. But yeah, there's lots of fun mythology and stuff around Sheogorath. Like, there's a story of him competing with Hircine, and they each create a creature to fight each other. The two creatures, go head to head. And Hircine creates some, big, strong, whatever, bear monster thing. And Sheogorath creates a little bird. And the big monster thing keeps trying to, kill the bird, but it can just never catch it. And, Sheogorath's bird just keeps flying around and twittering away. And eventually the monster becomes so frustrated that it goes crazy and I think kills itself. And so Sheogorath wins that bet. And that's kind of the role he fills. He's sort of the trickster type. I mean, he's the Daedric Prince of Madness, right? But there's a sort of cleverness to it. It's not... The madness conceals his wit, right? He's a bit of a jester in that sense, where sometimes the things that he's doing that seem just very silly are more well thought out than you would initially think. But yeah, he's a cool prince, and this is a very memorable quest in Oblivion. He wants us to carry out a prophecy. He wants us to make a certain prophecy real in Border Watch. So we have to ask this Khajiit Ribasa about the Kashara prophecy. And he tells us that it's sort of an end-of-the-world prophecy. Eschatology, right? Isn't that the study of the end of the world? So it's sort of an eschatological prophecy. And okay, we have to convince him to talk about the signs of the prophecy, but the first sign is that a swarm of rats descends, or vermin, I think is the word. Swarms of vermin descend on their community. And then the second sign is that their cattle all die in the fields. Oh yeah, here we go. First, the plague of vermin. Rats, I would imagine. Horrible little things. I always keep a powerful rat poison around. Next is the plague of famine. It is foretold that our livestock will fall dead in their fields with no apparent explanation. We have but the 6 sheep in our pasture, and we make sure they are well tended. The plague of fear is the third sign, and he will not speak of it, not to any outsider. So, if we ask him about Border Watch, he tells us that it's a little town of Khajiit that they gather around the campfire in the evenings, sharing stories of elsewhere, their homeland. And he suggests getting a room at the inn. And he tells us that in the inn there is a prized collection of cheeses. And that her most expensive cheese is very pungent and can be smelled for miles. So, if you're thinking about how we might engineer some of these signs of the prophecy, you might have an idea of what to do. First, we need to trigger the plague of vermin, which we were told was probably a swarm of rats. So, if we get some of this cheese here, this very pungent cheese, we might be able to attract rats for miles. So we just have to pick a very hard lock. And we have access to all of the cheese in this collection. I love this cheese collection just being like on a velvet sheet in a display case under glass. It's very funny to me. But alright, there's our magical smelly cheese. As for how we will engineer the second part of the prophecy, which is all the cattle dying in the field inexplicably, I guess we'll have to figure that out as we go. The rare Olroy cheese. A more pungent cheese you'll never find. It looks smooth, but it stinks to the heavens and beyond. I keep it locked away tight. If I were to try cooking with it, the smell alone would draw rats for miles. It's a lovely conversation piece, though. And there we go, there's our clues. Our clues of what to do. Oh, I also saw that she had some nice boots for sale, so I picked up her elven boots of scouting, or whatever they're called. Sylvan scout boots. Bouncing around in the inventory. And there we go. I got a nice new pair of boots. Nice new pair of boots for my scaly Argonian feet. I'm just wandering around the tavern instead of doing the quest. Oh, I was looking for that Nern root. I could hear it buzzing. And I was trying to find it. Alright, so we can go to the cooking pot here. Place the Olroy cheese in the cooking pot. And the smell coming from it is very pungent. And what's that? Oh my. A swarm of rats. Look at all of them charging into town. All right. Rebasa has seen all the rats. No time to talk. I have to get rid of these rats. And he's placed rat poison throughout town. You've seen it. You've seen the first sign.
Perhaps this is the beginning of the Keshara prophecy. It has come. We're doomed. Doomed. Run while you still can, stranger.
So, and now I have rat poison, and we have to engineer the death of all of the town's livestock.
So, we can simply go to the feeding trough and dump the rat poison inside.
And then, very sorry to the sheep, of course.
They're innocent in all this. I didn't want to do anything to them, but I have to serve Sheogorath.
The hungry sheep coming down, eating their hay.
Their hay that is full of rat poison.
And any second now.
Any second now. Any second now. Any second now. There we go. All the sheep collapsing.
You've done well, mortal. I am amused. Head into the center of Border Watch and make sure to duck.
So we have engineered the first two signs, and now Sheogorath will engineer the third and final sign.
The plague of fear, as Ribasa called it. Although Ribasa would not tell us what it was about.
What exactly signified the plague of fear? And we can see that it is
falling from the sky are burning dogs.
Just raining from the sky like water.
Dogs on fire slamming into Border Watch.
The Keshara has come true. Gods protect us.
So, another silly quest, a very memorable one for me.
The end of all things has come. We're finished. All hope is gone.
Whoa, Ribasa lives in a pigsty. His house is a mess. Stop worrying about the end of the world. Start worrying about cleaning up your house. Alright. So, we can return to Sheogorath's shrine
and receive our reward, which is a very notable reward.
You might know what it is if you played Skyrim. Hope you had as much fun as I did. Here, take this. It's a fun little toy. Now go away before I kill you. And he has given us the Wabbajack.
The Wabbajack.
Now here we are at the Shrine of Vaermina,
which is our second to last Daedric Prince quest.
And Vaermina is the Daedric Prince of Nightmares.
To be honest, that's all I really know about her. In terms of Daedric Princes, I feel like I know the least about Vaermina.
Yeah, she's just the Prince of Nightmares. She sends nightmares to mortals. When you have a nightmare, you're in her domain. Her statue is similar, but somewhat changed. There's a snake wrapping around her staff in the remastered version, and they also minimized the cleavage again, as has been a trend. There's a cool story, actually, in the Myths of Sheogorath book about Vaermina and Sheogorath, where I think they have a competition about who can drive a mortal man to madness, and she sends the man horrible nightmares for years, and he becomes an artist, and he paints these terrifying visions from his nightmares onto canvas, and becomes kind of famous for it. And she's unable to drive him to madness. And then Sheogorath gets his turn, and all he does is take away the nightmares. He just stops what Vaermina was doing. And the man, the artist, can't take it anymore. Just being faced with the silence of it. Not having the inspiration that he did before, and experiencing these nightmarish visions. And he goes crazy because of it. Yeah, I kind of screwed this quest up. I mean, I don't remember if in the original game it was like this, but the quest marker just points you right down to the orb of Vaermina that you're supposed to take. And I think that never happened in the original for me.
I never came in the back way. So I feel like the map marker in Oblivion was maybe hard-coded to point towards the door or something like that. I don't know exactly what the deal was, but
regardless, I came to the back here and I didn't really understand what was
like how I had ended up here, because this had just never happened to me before, so I was kind of confused.
It was a shame because this is actually a really cool quest.
It's this wizard who has stolen Vaermina's orb, and he goes to sleep, and his dreams are like spilling out into the real world because he has Vaermina's orb.
And so the idea is that how the quest is supposed to play out is that you walk into his fort, his lair, and it seems normal at first,
but then as you progress deeper into the fort, things become more and more impossible and insane, and the physical reality of it just doesn't make sense anymore.
And so it's a pretty cool quest, exploring the fort and making your way through the increasing unreality of it.
But I just followed the map marker like a real Zoomer RPG player, I guess. I could never play Morrowind. I would just get lost. You can't expect me to follow directions. I'm joking, of course. I actually quite like Morrowind.
But yeah, I just followed the map marker in and ended up at the back entrance. But
I didn't want to just take the orb and end the quest, because for the sake of the video, I thought it would be fun to see all the stuff, so I decided to go back through the fort, but just backwards. So this was a pretty wretched way of experiencing the quest, but
right, like stuff like that, like you open the door and it's just a solid wall behind it.
There's also obviously all these Daedra and Atronachs everywhere. Also, is it just me, or was that Frost Atronach kind of caked up? I only realized that now, but I'm not gonna rewind to double check, but I feel like I saw some
definition there. But yeah, this is a bad way of experiencing the quest. But yeah, like this giant room with the bed and the dining table and everything all huge.
Everything's oversized.
It kind of reminds me of in the White Gold Tower in the Imperial City. If you go into the basement,
There's like this random collection of stuff that's really big. It's a little Easter egg. I have no idea what it's doing there.
but there's like a giant hourglass and a big chair and stuff.
Some like oversized props in the basement.
But yeah, this quest,
It was a memorable one for me. I really liked the experience. I mean, as I said, I'm not giving you that experience by watching it, but the experience of going into the fort and witnessing it kind of devolve into unreality was a cool experience.
After Vaermina, we have one more quest, which is Hermaeus Mora's. And the thing about Hermaeus Mora in Oblivion is that you have to do all the other Daedric Prince quest lines first. You have to have completed all the other Daedric quests.
And you also have to reach a certain point in the main story. You have to get to a certain mission. Before that, Hermaeus Mora just won't speak to you.
So, I had to get through all of these Daedric quests.
And then, once I go back to Vaermina, we will go check on Hermaeus Mora.
And Hermaeus Mora is
another one of those Daedric princes that I think is pretty well known.
kind of on the level of Sheogorath.
Hermaeus Mora got a lot of attention in the Skyrim Dragonborn DLC,
where he was involved with the Skull People and all the Black Books, and you go into Apocrypha, his
realm of Oblivion. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We haven't even finished the Vaermina quest yet.
You can see here that I just used
Azura's star. So it's a very helpful Daedric artifact. I'm really kitted out with the Daedric artifacts at this point. Oh, and we've got a table on the ceiling here. And then in this room, it's the same table, the same dining room, but, if you go through it the reverse way, you see it on the ground as normal, and then in the next room, it's on the ceiling.
But yeah, I'm kitted out in the Daedric artifacts.
I'm wearing the Savior's Hide, and the Ring of Namira, and using Spellbreaker, and obviously I've got Umbra in one hand, and I swap between that and Goldbrand. But let's grab the Orb of Vaermina and get on out of here.
The cool thing about the Azura Star quest in Skyrim is that you can corrupt the star so that it becomes basically a reusable black soul gem, and will take the souls of NPCs, like, orcs and humans and stuff. Because Azura's star cannot normally do that. My orb is returned, and Darkvid will live out the rest of his days in nightmare. It is fitting. You have proved yourself mortal. It is fitting as well that you should bear my token. And so Vaermina gives us the Skull of Corruption, which is a fun item. You shoot it at an NPC, and it creates a hostile duplicate of them that attacks them. And I can't remember if this happened in the original game. I don't remember it happening, or if it's just a bug in the remastered version, but you can see that the clone that was summoned is naked, which I thought was strange. I don't remember that happening in the original Oblivion, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it's a pretty fun Daedric artifact. Also in the original game, it was very useful for glitches. You could do all sorts of shenanigans with a corrupted clone. Like if you gave the staff to an NPC and then they shot you with it, for instance, there was all sorts of weird stuff you could do. But here we are at Hermaeus Mora's shrine, and his statue received quite the change. Hermaeus Mora is way up in the mountains. His shrine is kind of inaccessible, or, hard to reach. And Regier tells us to approach Mora. Holy cow, did you just hear my stomach growl? That's my sign that I gotta eat. But we're on the last Daedric Prince quest, so I will survive for a bit. I actually thought Hermaeus Mora's old statue was kind of cool. It's obviously like really ugly and weird looking, but I don't know, it made him just look like this weird sludge monster. I liked how his form didn't really make sense. The new statue is really cool too. I don't really have a problem with it, but it feels more like comprehensible, I guess. There's something about the original version that, because it's so ugly and weird looking, I feel like it fits Hermaeus Mora a little more. But anyway, Hermaeus Mora's quest to us is we have to find one of every race and soul trap them with a special spell. And then store them all in the special soul gem that he gave us. And it occurred to me that a pretty easy way of doing this would be to go to the Imperial City Arena. So, we are going to go join the arena and soul trap our way through the combatants. Maybe one day I'll do a video just going through the whole arena quest line, but for now we're just gonna kind of speed through this. Owen is laughing at us. He thinks that we're
not gonna have a chance in the arena. We take our light raiment that we have to wear when we go in.
And I'm going to speed this whole segment up.
Ready for a match. But the arena, we have to wait until 9 a.m. And let's get up and go. So, we are on the blue team. And we are now going to fight our way through hordes of enemies in the arena. Carve a bloody path.
And the arena quest line is very simple. In the development of Oblivion, it was originally intended that every town would have its own arena, and you could,
I believe the idea was you would have to ascend the ranks of each of those town arenas before you could participate in the Imperial City's arena.
but that plan turned out to be
too ambitious for the development team to carry out. So they had to scale back, and they ended up just going with the Imperial City arena.
And, alright.
Right here, we are going mega fast now. I have cranked up the speed on the playback, and we are going to zip through the following fights.
So,
Yeah, the arena quest line is a little bare bones. It's not very.
I mean, it's not very interesting, to be blunt.
I don't dislike it. I think it would be cool if there was more to it, but I don't dislike it. But mainly I don't dislike it because of the personality of Owen, who is this guy right here that gives you your fights. He's a very well-written character, and his voice acting is great. And it's funny to hear all of his lines, so even though the actual quests are just run up to the arena, do a little fight, run back down, and it's not super fascinating stuff.
I still have kind of a fondness for the quest line, just because I like listening to
Owen's voice lines.
And then you eventually get to talk to the other,
I can't remember her name, the woman down in the Bloodworks.
she sets up your grand champion fight. But she's got a great personality too. So, yeah, even though the arena quest line mechanically is not particularly noteworthy, I still do kind of like it. If you're, tier ranking the factions of the Oblivion quest lines, the arena's definitely at the bottom. It doesn't hold a candle to the Mages Guild or the Fighters Guild or,
The Dark Brotherhood or the Thieves Guild.
But for what it is, I enjoy it.
You just gotta kind of take it as it is. It's just a series of combat challenges with with a fun NPC guiding you through them all.
So, I think, I don't remember exactly how many fights it is, but within a few fights, like probably 10 to around 10, something like that, you do fight one of every race. So
I'm just working through the arena fights until I hit one of every race. Probably more like 15, I would guess.
Because how many races are there? Anyways, there's
there's like 10 races, right? Khajiit, Arconian, Nord, Breton, Imperial, Redguard, Dunmer, High Elf, Wood Elf. That's 9. Am I forgetting any?
You think about the Tamriel map, right? You've got High Rock for the Bretons, Hammerfell for the Redguards, Skyrim the Nords, Morrowind the Dunmer,
Cyrodiil, Imperials, Black Marsh is the Arconians, Elsewhere is the Khajiit, Somerset Isles for the High Elves, and Valenwood for the Wood Elves, yeah.
So I guess 9 races. So yeah, somewhere around 10 to 15 fights.
And you end up with one of each soul for Hermaeus Mora. If you do this quest after you have done the arena, yeah, you can just, if you have any quest line like the Dark Brotherhood or whatever, where you're going to be killing people, you can carry the spell along with you for your contracts. Or if you're doing a lot of dungeon delving,
you can soul trap vampires, for instance, which is handy. So if you go into a vampire lair,
you can get a bunch of the souls you need. And then of course there's always just plain old murder. If you don't have a problem with that, you can just wander around cities and houses and Daedric prince shrines and stuff like that and find the people you need.
I will warn you to be careful with this soul trap spell. It's very buggy. What I would recommend is just use it once on one person, kill that person before casting the spell again. Don't cast it on multiple people at once. Try to avoid casting it multiple times at all.
I miss a couple of my shots with it in these arena fights, but it's very buggy.
And you can kind of unbug it. There are workarounds,
but I don't know if those workarounds are 100% reliable even, or if I've just gotten lucky.
When it bugged for me, I would do a thing of it was something like I would shoot the person with the spell twice and then shoot another person with the spell and then shoot like an inanimate object, but one that was still an item
in the game and not a piece of terrain, because it had to trigger a certain, the spell was ineffective message. And then I would cast it on the first person, and then it would sometimes work.
I don't know. Do you remember these old games, like all the bug workarounds we tried to do?
You'd be on game FAQs or whatever, trying to figure out how to fix your save file, because something wasn't working in the main quest, and you were like, I don't want to start a new save.
And yeah, that's not even to talk about corrupted data, how common that was. back in the days, it's not even to talk about hardware, right? If your game cartridge broke or your game disc got scratched or whatever it may be, nowadays games are they're pretty reliable. I mean, for all the complaints about modern gaming and the day one bug fixes and stuff like that, and all of that is true, but I will say, like, I feel like generally these days games are more reliable in a broad sense. Like, I'm much less likely to lose my entire save file these days than I was in, 2006. Obviously, it doesn't mean that games should release in the buggy states that they're in these days. It's no excuse, but I do think there has been some improvement on the severity of bugs that are kind of commonplace in gaming. Back in the day, it was not uncommon for an entire save file to be basically destroyed. But anyway, we got all the souls that we needed.
So we have returned to Hermaeus Mora's shrine.
And he is backlit by the rising sun, or
maybe setting sun. I guess that's the setting sun, now that I think about the directions.
And Hermaeus Mora rewards us with the Ogma Infinium. Read it and gain knowledge of yourself. Go now, learn and remember. That's my Hermaeus Mora impression.
Hermaeus Mora from Skyrim. So yeah, he gives you the Ogma Infinium, and it's a pretty dope artifact because it raises your attributes, a couple of your attributes and a couple of your skills.
The skills don't matter too much, but what I would say is whichever attributes you're going to raise with the Ogma Infinium, you should level up. You should get them to 100 first.
Because it's rare that you can get your attributes above 100 in this game. And the Ogma Infinium is one of the ways to do that. So if you level them up to 100 first, and then use the Ogma Infinium, it'll be pretty useful.
This is also the reward you get from the Hermaeus Mora quest in Skyrim.
So the Path of Steel increases your strength and speed. The Path of Shadow increases your agility and speed. And the Path of Spirit increases your intelligence and willpower.
And they also, all three of those increase 3 skills, I think. I don't remember which ones exactly. Probably light armor and heavy armor, respectively, for
Shadow and Steel, and then the Path of Spirit increases your conjuration, restoration, and destruction skills.
But yeah,
it's a very good artifact, and I would recommend you get your skills, your attributes to 100 that you're gonna increase before you use
the Ogma Infinium. The Ogma Infinium.
Is it a good impression? Is it any good? Alright, tell you what, I'm gonna let Hermaeus Mora say goodbye to you.
Thank you, mortal, for joining me today as we venture through the world of Tamriel, collecting Daedric artifacts. It was a long journey, and I am glad you are here with me for it. Until next time, my mortal friends, seek knowledge for me, Hermaeus Mora. Goodbye. Goodbye.